Hi everyone, this is Beth. I wanted to share with you a project that I just finished up for a swap that's being hosted by Arte over at a Ning site. It's a little scrap of heaven.ning.com. Arte is hosting this altered CD. All of the CDs are due to her by April 30th. It's a 1-for-1, 2-for-2 swap, so make one, get one back, make two, get two back. So I decided to go ahead and make two. This was well outside my range of what I've ever done before. I'm just really starting to get into the more artistic side of paper arts. I am a scrapbooker, mini booker, card maker, stamper, but I've been exploring a lot of mediums thanks to many of the art journalers that I've been watching, and this was a chance to combine both of them. So let me show you some details of what I've been working on. As you can tell for this, I was inspired by the Le Cirque paper line by Graphic 45. So I used images from the 8x8 pad, just a couple papers that I pulled out of here. I used this, if you can see the small one down here in the corner. Let me see if the camera will focus on it for you. That's the one that I cut up to use pieces of it for the majority of the front of this for the paper piecing. So let me start by telling you all of the materials I used because this was rather materials intensive. I started out with using some canvas that was meant to run through my printer. So it was a 8x10 pieces or 8.5 by 11 pieces, and what I did is I traced a CD on there so I had an idea of how much I had to paint, and then I started working on my background. The background, if you can see, let me turn my light here so you can see better, uses different shades of reds, yellows, and oranges with some layering throughout. So I started with an Adirondack dauber in the sunshine yellow, and just colored sporadically around with that. I actually used the paintbrush and not the dauber because I wanted to get not quite as full coverage as I would if I were just sponging up and down with the dauber. And then after that I added with a paintbrush as well some sunset orange. And at that point it was looking rather bright, so I needed to tone it down a bit with some colors that had some brown tones in them, and some deeper tones as well. So I went to next my Lumiere paints, and I used some burnt orange. And then finally I used some crimson in the Lumiere as well. It was still looking a little bit brighter than I wanted it to be, so after that I went to some fluid acrylics and I wiped on some yellow ochre. And as I was working on my background, I did do a lot with wiping layers of paint away using baby wipes before they dried, so I could have areas that had oranges or yellows or purples, purples, oranges or yellows or reds showing through as I wanted it to be. After that, I was looking to add some texture and some depth. So I started by stamping. This is the Tim Holtz stamp set, Papillon, and because the circus travels, I chose to use the Paris, New York, and London stamp, and I stamped that in a sepia color with the archival ink, and you can just see that in the background on there. And then also for more texture I used a Stampin' Up set called Background Basics, and this is a really old set. It has to be 10 years old, but I did use the star, and I used archival coffee ink for that. After I had all of that done, I cut it out, and I used the Claudine Helmuth's Multimedium in Matte to glue it to the CD after I had sanded both sides of the CD so it would have a little bit of tooth. I also then used, while it was drying, some of these bulldog clips all around the edges so that the edges would stay flush while it was drying, because the canvas was rolling a little bit because of all of the layers of paint that I put on. Then after I had everything glued down, I started to work on getting more layers. So the next thing I did was I used Liquitex glass bead medium. So this is a clear gel, and I don't know, you can probably see the beads in the bottom of that. A clear gel that has glass beads in it, and I mixed in it for just a little bit of color the Liquitex Basics acrylic paint, and then I just smooshed it on different areas, on that one and that one, just all over, and you can see the beads on there, and just let it dry. Also, to give a little more texture, I used the Tim Holtz Crackle Distress Paint in the Clear Rock Candy, and again, I just put it in different areas on the CD. It was, even with all of the acrylic paint, it was still sinking in areas. I had to put this on thick to really get it to have enough buildup for it to crackle, but it did work. So on that one, and you can see the crackle on this one as well. And then I still wanted the cracks to show up even more, so what I did is I took, after all of that was dry, I took some of my Lindy Stamp Gang, and I used the Starburst stains. I used the Autumn Maple Crimson, and I brushed these on with a paintbrush. The Yellow Rose of Texas, and I used the Peony Scarlet Red. And then I wiped and rubbed around and did, again, with my baby wipes, to really get the color and the texture that I was hoping for. Then after I did all of that, I took some of my Lumiere in Indigo, and I went all around the edges of the CD. You can see that around the edges on both of these, just to add a little bit of a finished look. And I also then used the 18 karat gold Krylon paint pen on that, so that it would have a finished edge as well. So if you look closely at the edges, they are blue and gold all the way around. And then, as you can see, I did fussy cutting on most of the images, and I also added to the images the Autumn Maple Crimson to the red on his cape. I added, oh shoot, I don't have the blue color out here, but I did add a blue. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Oh, I don't have it. Oh, yes, I do. I added the Azure Sea Asters to his blue outfit for the clown. Around his little frilly neck and behind him, I added the Yellow Rose of Texas, just again painting it on with my paintbrush. And on his hat, I added the Ponderosa Pine Olive. I don't know if you can see a little bit of glimmer on it. Yeah, you can see a little bit of it. And then, if you look at the title, on the title I added, this is ancient as well, some of the 3D crystal lacquer. I've had this stuff, it has to have been 10 years. Still works great. Store it upside down so it doesn't have air bubbles in it. And I added that on there so it has a nice finish. Then what I did is to add some of the lights. When you go to the circus, there are awful lots of colored lights that they use as part of the ambiance, so I wanted to capture some of that. So I was trying to figure out how to do it. So what I did is I poked some holes through the CD. I used my Crocodile. It worked perfectly. It was no effort at all. What I did is I marked the spots using my Slick Writer pen where I wanted to have my wire go through. And again, I dug back deep in my stash and dug out some of this artistic wire. I don't even know if they sell this anymore. Michael's might have it, but it was big in scrapbooking back when wire writing was in and hanging things from wire. And I have several packs of this along with the artistic wire tools. And I have this fancy little thing that makes all kinds of spirals, and it comes in different sizes. So what I did is I picked out a red wire and an orange wire, and decided where I wanted my holes, poked them in, and did some spirals with some beading along those. And I chose bead colors that match the paper. And I have these. I don't even know who these are made by. Again, they've been in my stash forever, but you see bugle beads, some bigger beads, and then some smaller seed beads. And I just use them intermittently along the way. And there they all are. And it jingles too. And then finally, last but not least, before I glued everything down, I decided to go back to my itty bitty backgrounds. Again, another ancient Stampin' Up! Set. And I used this one, the one with the little speckles. And I used some Colorbox gold ink. It's a pigment ink. And I added some of the gold speckles on there as well. And let me see if the camera will pick this up. There's some just very subtly in the background as well. So that's it. That's the front of my projects. Again, it was quite a stretch for me. I did finish the backs. I will be putting a little envelope back there and a tag to put all of my information in. But essentially, it is pretty close to done. Oops, let me get some focus here. I am happy with it. It was a lot of work, a lot of layering, but it was really fun to play with things that I have had in my stash for years and didn't really know what to do with. So I hope you like my project. Check out Artie Dar at A Little Scrap of Heaven and join her swap and stretch your imagination as well. Thanks for watching. Bye.